Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today is Vicky Cook. Vicky is a candidate for the Fork District Board of Supervisors here in Warren County, and she is the Republican nominee for this particular seat. We've talked to Vicky in the past, but we're gonna hopefully talk to you a couple more times. We've invited all the candidates to come in to talk to us, kind of tell us their position, let us know what their plans are, and whether they're going to be the choice that we need for the Board of Supervisors. We have a couple seats open this time.
Yep.
So, Vicky, anything new that's been going on? Or I know that you've been out door knocking, which is always a thing that politicians do. So, tell us, what have you run across in Fork District?
Well, I've knocked on plenty of doors at the Fort District, and I've talked
Your knuckles are, she's got Band-Aids on her knuckles there.
And I've been talking to a lot of citizens in the Fort District, and which has been a great journey for me.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to their concerns and what they see within the town and the county, services that they think that have been neglected. And of course, there's some other issues that they bring up, as a lot of the schools, what's been going on with the Virginia Department of Education policies and mandates and how it's affecting our community. All it really does is makes me want to work harder. Because they deserve to have their voice and these concerns brought to what I call the table of the Board of Supervisors.
Sure. It seems like the Fork District is always, you never hear about it.
No.
And yet it's a pretty good size area.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of, not many people maybe, but it's a large area. And but you're right, you brought up some issues. The school board is a hot topic right now. We're concerned with masking and unmasking and vaccinating and non-vaccinating. And that's a big thing for our county. I know that several members of the board have really been instrumental on encouraging people to get vaccinated. Where do you see the board makeup going, with you added to it? I think I said something to you, the women are going to take over the board, but...
No, we're not going to take over the board.
One lone man on the board, maybe two. I'd say Walt, right?
Jay and Walt.
Jay will, we're assuming that Jay will be elected and Walt will be on there for a few more terms, but you guys will have the majority. I mean,
at the end of the day, it's not about that. Right? It's about serving the people and bringing their issues and concerns. And that's where my experience is really important. I have over 30 years of professional experience of managing and oversighting projects for the Navy, FAA, FEMA. And my experience is in doing of managing those projects is I was dealing with tax-paying dollars.
Right.
And that is no different of doing with the county.
Sure.
And so I think that with my experience of oversight and managing and knowing how important it is to watch the tax-paying dollars, how they're spent, are they being spent efficiently is really what matters.
Right. Sometimes that's always the thing that politicians do. They're spending other people's money. They wouldn't spend their own that way, I can tell you that. And but yet they seem to be free and loose with the purse.
Yep.
And it's always a thing that gets them in trouble. And you're right. But one of the strong suits of any management is to inspect what you expect. And that's probably one of the things that don't get done in a lot of things. And that's important, I think, that you have that experience in doing that. But it's true, there's a lot more involved in managing projects. And I mean, really, the Board of Supervisors is kind of like the CEO, co-CEOs of a big company. I mean, It's a huge budget. It's a huge budget. Right. And you mentioned the school board. That's a huge part of our budget.
Absolutely, that's a huge budget.
So what do you see our schools, the importance of them in our county and things that are going on, or what are people saying that they want to see?
Well, with the school board, I want to work with the school board. I want to start having that, liaison between the two boards, because there's a lot of Virginia Department of Education policies that are coming down from Richmond that really affects how we are educating our children and also how it's affecting our parents' rights. And I think if we work together and go through how these policies are being implemented, is one thing that I think we should do. Another thing, I think parents should have a forum, because right now, I'm hearing from a lot of parents of their experiences, their children's experiences of how these new policies and how they're implemented is affecting them. And so I want to, as the Board of Supervisor and as being the Board of Supervisor, having that authority to go and start talking to the department heads and bring those issues up and let them be aware that the parents have a lot of concerns. And I think right now I think that's missing.
Well, and you talk about that and dealing with our, kind of go up the chain to our elected officials. There's always somebody in charge, and so you need to go up until you find that person that is making these mandates. Sometimes these are not mandates, but policies.
Policies.
And that they really are sending out these policy guidelines, and then they want the local organization, the governments, to kind of fine-tune them to fit their own communities. Sometimes we look at what they send down thinking, they're putting their thumb on it, but sometimes they are and sometimes they're not, So I think we need to address
Right.
what's a policy and what's a law.
Right, and also be aware of what's coming down the pipe.
Right.
Because for using the transgender policy as an example, I mean, that was out several months before it became effective in July, I
Sure.
think it was. And I think during that time frame, we should have all been aware of that was coming. When I say we, the superintendent knew it was
Sure.
coming and the school board knew it was coming, but the rest of the community didn't. And I think that we should be more transparent with that.
That's always the thing. I mean, I remember when Walt ran for the Board of Supervisors, that was his big thing. We're not transparent. And when he was the chairman, he really let the public speak a lot at these meetings, which, he got chastised sometimes for it. But he said, people need to vent sometimes, and they just need, and we need to listen to people.
Yeah, and that's the only form that they have right now, that
Right.
people have to bring up these issue concerns and even ideas. So I think the next step is to address them,
Right.
as the Board of Supervisors, because we're elected by them to represent who their concerns, and I think we need to take it a step further.
So you've met a lot of your neighbors that you've never known before. Isn't that funny? We live in the community and we don't even know our neighbors. Maybe that's part of the problem we have. Maybe we need to get out there and all of us need to start knocking doors.
Well, you know what? I'm meeting a lot of neighbors and constituents, if you will, of the district, and what it's done is just energized me, Mike. It just really has energized me, because we live in a community that people care about each other. They want unity. They want to raise their families. They want to have good jobs. They care about their next door neighbor, and or what's going on in the schools and things like that. So we're still out there knocking on doors, hearing their concerns and their issues. It just makes me want to, to work even harder for them.
What do you see as one of the big challenges we have here in the county? Maybe even especially the Fork District, but let's talk about the county in general, because you're going to represent the entire county.
That's correct.
So what do you see as our, like a number one thing? Is there such thing as a number one thing? Or?
Actually, there is. The unity between the town and the county. A lot of folks that I've talked to have brought that up and saying that we need to start working together. Right. And I agree with them, because I really do believe that the county and the town could find common goals, common objectives that's going to enhance the families and the way we live and bringing in good jobs and that kind of thing. But that's the number one. A lot of people are just like, we need to start focusing on the people.
Yeah, I never could understand. Well, it kind of goes over the 40-some years I've lived here. We've had good times and bad times where the county and town work together, but the town is part of the county.
That's correct.
And I think people forget that. We always say we have double taxation and all. We really don't. I mean, even if we were a county government, we would still have a tax overlay district for the town, and you'd still be paying for those services that only town areas get. So there really isn't, because they've talked about consolidation and then also separation. People don't really realize the function of, we would be considered almost like a sanitary district. We have services that only apply to this location, which would be the town. And then you have, just like you do in Shenandoah Farms and Shenandoah Shores and High Knob and different places, they all have different needs, and they pay for the services that only they receive. So, we're not really being taxed twice. We're paying for what we get.
Yeah, that's true. But and also, and I also think there's a win-win here.
I think so too.
There's a win-win for everybody, because we always focus on the town, the county, but we also have Linden, and we have Bentonville, we have other
Sure.
areas that are part of.
They get forgotten.
They do get forgotten, a little bit like Fork, but.
Yeah.
But no,
you said about Riverton, and now that's gone, and now it's Front Royal. I mean, it's kind of that little location always, disappeared, so to speak. But it's true. It's the county is, it's a small county, but there's people here. It's divided by the highways and the rivers and the railroad, and so we got these little chunks that we need to take care of. It's a strange situation because we have such unique little areas of pockets.
That's correct.
It's kind of like all these different.
Good way to describe it.
And they need to be able to form together. And one of those ways was that we'll bring up the EDA. And now the town has developed their own EDA.
Yep.
I always wonder, said, what are they going to EDA? I mean, but the county, the Front Royal Warren County Economic Development Authority is really taking care of the entire county, which includes the town. And
that's right.
I think they've decided they are working better together with the town. I think they've finally resolved that whatever their issues are, they'll be resolved soon. And everyone can then move on to, to get development in our county.
Well, move on and be more transparent.
I think so.
I think the transparency is lacking with the EDA, what's going on, between the town and the county. And I think being more transparent of the ideas that they're doing, the enhancements that they're doing, is going to bring more trust to the people.
Right. Well, people are moving here. Businesses are moving to our county. We've opened a lot of businesses. There's a lot of big construction projects going on that a lot of people, they kind of if they're driving up 522, there's a huge inland port warehouse type building going up there next to the RSW. That's a huge place, big money there, and so there's places like that are developing. We just did a report. Senator Warner was here talking about the inland port, and so that's a vital kind of an infrastructure that we have in our county that really brings a lot of economic development that the average person really doesn't see. Because it just leaves that area and doesn't go, but those dollars do trickle down to our county coffers, so to speak.
That's true. That's true.
So, what do you think? We're going to tackle our relationships with the town. That's one of your goals.
Yep.
How about number 2? Do you have something else on your list?
Well, yeah, actually, the.
Because I know you've got a long list, but we're going to just do the highlights.
Highlights. Well, the next one on my list is the broadband initiative that the county has started to work on, which is bringing fast speed internet to all the underserved households in the whole county. But for me, I'm a little passionate about that.
Because you live out where there isn't any internet.
and and that was another concern that the residents that I went out and I met, Alpha 619, and being out in those areas that they don't have that capability. But also being a former IT program manager and being exposed and aware to the type of what I'm going to call hiccups in implementing a big project, because this is a big infrastructure project. I want to be sure that people are not forgotten. Sometimes, you start branching out and then you claim success, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a minute. You forgot me over here,
Exactly
kind of thing.
Or the price is so high that, we have it, but no one can afford it.
Yeah, so I believe this is a really great initiative for the county, and I really want to make sure it's successful. So
it's amazing how this internet has just kind of taken over our world. The other day we lost power in the corridor area for 4 or 5 hours. Everyone shut down. One, they had no electricity, but they had no internet. And if the electric comes on and no internet, literally stores don't even function. I remember being at the grocery store. They had electric, but no internet. And well, we can't check you out. So we have to close. You know, we
Yeah.
can't, and or they even small stores they don't know how to make change. Well, McDonald's can't make change without their computer. You know, it's kind of a joke, but it's true.
No,
I mean,
but people
we
don't
rely
realize.
on that.
That's-
We rely on that.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, our whole business really revolves around the internet. The Royal Examiner wouldn't be on without the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's really a major thing. Our school, our
I
virtual.
was just gonna
This was
say.
a good example of what we did for the last year or so. The internet has been a vital part of our education, and I think it will continue to be so.
Absolutely. Well, that's true, you know, because the school is starting to do virtual in-home learning now. And so that's going to, I don't know because I'm a private citizen, so I don't know what goes on. You know, I don't even know what public information is, but it would not surprise me that that's going to expand.
It's got to. Yeah.
It's going to expand.
I think I've mentioned to you before is, my son-in-law and my daughter both got their degrees or their master's degrees all online. Never attended the university at all, and they did it when they were overseas. So, the internet has really changed education. It's changed the face of business. Small businesses in our community can compete with
That's
big
correct.
businesses in California or
That's
New York or some other place. That internet has like leveled the playing
Right.
field, and the backbone of that is high speed.
That's correct. That's
If
correct.
you've been around here, I can remember when we had the dial-up. That funny, the noise, right? You remember that?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
And we thought it was so hot, man, to get a 300 baud modem. IT talk here. But yeah, we thought that was hot stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Or I can remember when I had my office in Arizona and here, and we were going to get a 56K line. And we're thinking, your phone's faster than that now. Anyway, and that's just not that many years ago.
No, it's
the
not.
technology. Now we're going to be having 5G on your phone, and
That's right. I mean,
it's
the average, I think it's probably not, it's probably less than when I was part of it, but I mean, the life cycle of advancements for IT equipment and interfaces and things is like what, 18 months, I think.
Right.
And that was like, what, 20 years ago? I can
remember,
imagine what it
I can
is
remember
now.
when I bought my first computer, my accountant said, "You got to amortize that for 30 years," and now they say, "Oh, you just write it off."
Just go down to Walmart now.
But so things have changed because the life cycles have just got crazy.
Yeah.
But that's an important thing to keep an eye on. And
yes.
again, we don't really think of that as a role of our county government, but this broadband initiative is a joint partnership that the state and the local agencies and the local governments are working with private enterprise.
That's right.
To kind of spread this in our community.
Right. I would, in the essence, they're using economies of scale,
Sure.
and that's what's going to keep the price down too. So, I think it's an exciting project.
Yeah.
I really want to make sure that it's implemented successfully and people are not left out.
Well, the one thing that the county or that politicians all talk about are taxes. Do you have anything you want to say about taxes? I mean, we always say, "Well, I pay too much." I mean,
well, I believe in our community we have a lot of retired people, like me,
Yeah.
and in my talking with the folks, there's we're all on fixed incomes, and so I think taxes is very important to keep down for our retired community, our senior citizens. They're just living on Social Security. I think we need to keep the taxes low. However, I don't want to see it being taken away from other services that are very important, like public safety and even education.
Sure.
So that goes with me when I tell people that I think we can balance things. It's kind of like we have the county's like a three-legged stool.
Sure.
Right, and the stool is are the people who pay taxes. So one leg is taxes, how we spend it, is it efficient? And the other one, of course, is the public safety and education.
Sure.
But that's my feel. I think that I don't know again, but when I'm involved with tax rates and if we're going to raise them or not, my first view will be, of course, what is efficient, what is not. Are we doing some redundancies? How can we make the operation run a little more effective that we may not have to raise taxes or moving revenue to another department.
One of the things they always say, we've always done it this way. It kind of like, and I think the county is a zero base budget. We need to start over every time, or do we really need this service? And you always read about the government agencies have been around since forever, and one guy sitting on a desk and the phone never rings. Well, we've always had that department, and that does happen.
It does happen.
But that's where he goes back to inspect these things and look at each line item and follow it around.
Right.
But I've watched some of these departments. They're pretty clever how they hide things in different budget lines, and then when it comes time to spend the money, they put it together, and say, oh, now we can hire 6 people. Well, wait a minute. You said you weren't hiring anyone, and so things like that do happen.
And so with that scenario, the first thought that comes to my mind is, so do we have descriptions, right? When you see a line item,
right.
What does that mean?
That budget, is pretty thick. I always thought
they really go down to the nitty gritty.
They do.
It goes way down.
Well, last year, or it was the year before, we took our camera to the budget meetings and for hours. I know Mark was there and I was there. These things go on for 3 and 4 and 5 hours or 8 hours. But it's a process. But the part, of course, we only seen each department head coming in for like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm thinking, they had to do their sales pitch in 15 minutes. If not, it would take even longer. But this budget cycle is about 6 months. It's almost all year long. It's not something that they do in one day.
No.
It's a process that I know, so talking to other members of the board and the council, they spend a lot of time on budgets.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's important. Because, again, the budgets, how I view it, is tax dollars.
Right.
So.
One thing I think, too, is, and I'm just kind of a half glass full kind of guy. Anyway, that if people feel like, though, they're getting their money's worth, they don't mind paying for something that they get.
Mm-hmm.
So if our taxes are well spent and we feel like we're getting services for it and we're being included in the process,
absolutely,
we don't mind paying.
Mm-hmm.
Even on a limited budget, I think people feel, and it goes back to that transparency.
That's exactly right.
And our politicians and our county leaders, town leaders, state leaders communicate well enough that they can get their message out. Because, we elect people like you and others to represent us. You're not to go and say, well, you don't take a poll every time you're going to vote on something. So, we hear conversations like this and we're saying, Vicky's the right person, or whoever that is. I think I like her views and I know she'll vote like I would vote. And that's really the kind of government we have. So, but you do listen to kind of form some, kind of get the consensus. But bottom line is, you're going to vote the way you think you're going to vote. I mean, you're not one person. The squeaky wheel doesn't always get the grease. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'll be voting on a lot of topics that will affect the county as well as 4th District.
Sure.
But part of my process and how I make decisions is that I look at all the different external factors, and one of the most important factor to me are the people who elected me, and what they feel, and because what I've experienced and knocking on the doors of all the folks that I've talked to, they are important to me. And so that would be part of my decision process.
Right.
And then, of course, it goes into what are the laws and the regulations,
sure.
And then come together with that.
And things change when you get on the other side.
That's what I tell folks. When I'm there, I'll be able to peek around the curtain,
right.
and see, what's the rhyme and reason with some of this stuff.
Exactly.
And
that's why we can't do that.
Or
why aren't we doing that?
Or is there a better way of doing
exactly,
that? Exactly. That kind of thing. And that's, again, as you said, that brings transparency. And I think the people deserve to have that knowledge of how things are done.
It's a full-time job.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of effort. The pay isn't great.
Well, I'm not in it for the pay.
No, not in these jobs. That's for sure. It barely covers your gas expense running around to the 4th District. But you brought up something I do, and I think this is kind of an analogy. My wife, and I'm sure everyone does this, is you never listen to me. And I said, well, no, what you're saying is I didn't do it the way you wanted. So I said, I listen. I take what I know. I take what you brought to the table. I take the information that you don't know about, and I pull it all together and I make a decision. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't listen to you. I heard you. I listened to you. I just didn't do what you said. And I think this happens in any kind of relationship, but this is what happens when people vent. They didn't get the way they wanted it,
Right.
but I think our leaders should listen to what they say, listen to things that you don't hear, put it all together and make the right decisions. And that's why we want to hear from candidates like you to kind of see, like, what's your process?
Right.
And are you making sound decisions? Are you looking at your watch every time something's going on and get out of there?
Well, and it's kind of the fundamentals of decision making, really. Because when you have a topic that you have to make a decision, you find out what's your objective, right? What are you trying to achieve with this? And then you start breaking it down and bringing. When I say external factors, as I said,
Sure.
the people, the laws, all that, and bring it together and come up with
There's always
a
a
sound
hurdle.
decision.
There's always a hurdle that you have to cross.
Oh, yeah.
Always a hurdle. Well, Vicky, I think we could just talk this to death here. And, I can come up with all sorts of things to ask you, but we still have quite a ways to go, another 60 days at least until the election. Early voting is September 17th. And that's a new thing here that we have. So
Yep.
if you are, there's no reason not to vote. That's for sure.
Yep.
And that's September 17th. Early voting at the registrar's office
That's
starts.
correct.
And then, of course, our election in November. So we will see you back. We want to hear more about you as things progress. We'll have some more candidates come in, talk about things that are happening in their district as well. So there's a lot of interesting things, and it's amazing that people have come out of the woodwork, so to speak, whenever there's a topic. You have an opponent in your area that's running as a write-in, concerned about something. The school board has got several write-ins. They've got several people on the ballot.
Yep.
Jay Butler is the only one that doesn't seem to have anybody, right? But maybe we'll encourage some of him to crack the whip. But people are concerned, and
That's what
when
it
they
says.
do, it's funny that the previous election we had no one running, and all of a sudden we had 6 people running in the same district because they were really a hot topic came up.
Well, that too, but it starts at the local level.
It does start at the local level.
It starts at the local level, and it's seeing all the people who want to stand up and serve. It tells you that the message is getting out.
It does.
It's
That's
very important.
It's important. And I think let's not forget about our state representatives. We need to
That's right.
be involved in that. And you see something you don't like, write them a letter, send them an email. These things, believe it or not, a few comments go a long way, as you well know. And
Yep.
because you know that if one person writes you or talks to you, they really represent a lot of people, because
That's
most
true.
people are not going to say anything,
That's right.
just complain.
That's right.
But it's better to go ahead and fire that email out.
And also, like you were saying, the state level, it's very important you go out and vote for the state levels as well, because they will be the ones who will influence a lot of Virginia state law and policies.
Exactly.
They'll be influencing the Department of Education, the laws, of course, the Second Amendment, and all that.
Sure.
So it's very important.
Sure. And like you say, a lot of these things are coming down from the state. And so this is the time of the year where you elect a new governor, a new lieutenant governor,
Yeah.
a new attorney
Attorney
general.
General.
And these are the areas that kind of set the policy. And if you don't like the policies that you've had in the last 4 years, it's time to change. And this is the time that you get to do it.
That's right.
It's great. Well, be sure you vote early. Well, they say vote early, vote often, but we won't do that anymore. But it's September 17th is early voting. Please do it. Vicky Cook is running for the Fork District, so you'll see her out and about in your area,
Yep.
and other candidates as well. So we appreciate you, Vicky.
Oh,
We'll
thank
talk
you,
again.
Mike.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Take care.